Welcome back to another episode of It's in the Details. As always, please remember to share, like, subscribe, rate, review, comment, wherever you get the show. Today, we are really looking into some women's sports, female athletics. I coached for a time, as I'm sure you've heard me discuss on the show before. I coached some women's volleyball. But watching women's sports, I'm really interested in stories. Good stories, interesting stories, compelling stories. And I found some of them this weekend watching the women's US Open golf. I've been watching more and more women's golf over the last year or so, and there are a number of things great to watch where women's golf is concerned. Number one, skilled, highly skilled athletes from all over the world, which is always great to see. Major headlines from this past tournament, you've got a seasoned American who has been near the top of the game, always had the skills, 5 strokes ahead on the final day of the tournament, and she collapses, doesn't win this tournament. She's been trying to win her entire career. You've got a 17-year-old amateur named Megha Ganne, first name Megha. Now, this young lady seems to have all the skills in the world. If she can keep her game together, remember the name I just said to you, Megha Ganne, because she's going to be a superstar. There were fans at the event. They loved her. Her smile lit up outside. You know that lit up a room, talk with your smile business? She was lighting up all of outside with this smile, eyes bright. She's going to Stanford next year. She's not going to turn pro. She's going to go get her education. If she can keep her game together, she's going to run women's golf. If she can't keep it together, she'll just be another person that's really smart and good at golf. But if she can keep it together, superstar. And then you have the champ, the person that won, tied for the youngest person to ever win this tournament at 19 years and some months and some days. She tied to the day of being the youngest person to ever win it. Her name is Yuka Saso. She is from the Philippines, and I know the Philippines must have gone wild after she won. That was amazing for them. I hope it helps accelerate the growth of the game in the Philippines. But some of the stories that actually really talked to me were, I don't recall the last time I saw a sporting event where you could find so many smiles and laughs and hugs being shared between competitors, being shared between athletes and fans, being shared between golfer and caddy. It was really some heartwarming stuff on a weekend to just see someone, or see several someones, excelling at what they do professionally and also appearing to really just enjoy it. They didn't have to worry about anyone dumping popcorn on their head, spitting at them from the stands, throwing water bottles at them. They didn't have to worry about any of that stuff. NBA fans, you know what I'm talking about. Fans in the stands have been acting a fool. But to stay focused, the LPGA has some stars brewing. If they could figure out how to market them even better, I think the sport would continue to grow and hopefully explode. Speaking of sports growing and exploding. The WNBA. I've had an off and on, hot and cold relationship with the WNBA. I remember when it started. I remember being pumped about it and watching it like as a teenager, young teenager. Then kind of just fell off. Just didn't have the interest. But recently, I'd say in the last year and a half or so, I've been really pumped about the WNBA. Now, the majority of that started with the bubble. The bubble, much like the NBA's bubble, they gathered up the teams, they took them to a place, they all stayed together essentially, and they were basically at basketball camp. Now, ESPN filmed a documentary on that experience called 144. If you care about women's sports, if you care about social justice or social injustice, if you care about black women, watch 144. It's amazingly done. It's called 144 because there are 12 teams in the WNBA. Each team has 12 players. If you're good at math, that adds up to 144. But it details the experience of those women making the decision to go into the bubble, making the decision to stay in the bubble, the trials and tribulations of competing just in that scenario with the pandemic going on, but also given the quote unquote racial reckoning. I'm not partial to that phrase because I'm not sure how much is actually being reckoned with. But for them to go in to the bubble with all of that hanging over their heads, they went in with a focused campaign of Say Her Name, working with the Say Her Name. I think it's an organization. Just basically making sure people continue to say the names of the people, of the black people that have been murdered by police or in police custody. So they went in with that focus. And then while they're there, as many of you know, Jacob Blake was shot, and the NBA, WNBA, I believe even the NHL, had to make decisions on whether or not they're going to play those games on those days. And it was a riveting tale. You should see it. You should watch it, find it, track it down, hour and a half. But then again, the stories that touch me, like these fiercely strong competitive women. You've got 144 of them. They don't all agree on what shouldn't be done regarding their reaction to everything that was going on in the world. But then you also get the joy of competing for a championship, buzzer beaters. Like, I've been thinking about buzzer beaters in basketball. Slight tangent. A buzzer beater in front of a crowd must be such a great experience. Like a really, really strong, I'll never forget that experience. But a buzzer beater in a bubble where there are your teammates and maybe 11 or 12 executives hanging around, that's got to be a very strange experience. Equally amazing, but you are so much just sharing it with your teammates and shoving it in the face of the people you just hit that buzzer beater on. I would like to hear someone talk about what that actually feels like. But anyway, again, more hugs than I've ever seen, more laughing, more crying, more smiles. Women's sports might be it, man. That might be, maybe not, but there's a place for everything, and people should consider them if you're not already wholeheartedly considering sitting down and enjoying some of these games. The other thing that got me really excited for this WNBA season, which is already happening, and this season started with 2 or 3 buzzer beaters in the first 3 or 4 games. Like, if you want tension and drama and high skill basketball, it's there to be found in the WNBA. The other thing about the WNBA is the exposure that is currently happening. I consume quite a bit of NBA content, and you've got Kia Nurse up here on doing analysis for the Raptors games, and she's been stellar. You learn every time she's on the screen, or you think, what a great point every time she's on the screen. Same thing goes for Candace Parker. Candace Parker, already a WNBA superstar, but now she takes part on some of the post-game halftime shows on TNT with Shaq and Dwayne Wade, and much like Kia Nurse, you're being educated every time she opens her mouth. You're thinking that's a great point. You're thinking that's funny. Just every time they're on screen, personally, I think, what took so long? These are not the only women that were capable of taking one of these roles and discussing the men's game, but they're here. So just enjoy their talent, because their talent level is so high on the court and off the court, and it's a pleasure to watch. Getting ready for the WNBA, really, I really felt it when the NCAA tournament was happening. Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate slightly. I know you've seen the pictures. You must have seen the pictures. You just got to remember of how the NCAA set up the men's facilities versus the women's facilities. Now, if I were to play devil's advocate, I would say, we know the men's ratings. I'm the NCAA. We know the men's ratings are going to be high. They might be dropping, but they're still high. They're always high. But the women's ratings, not so high. So if we could create a controversy around putting out dumbbells no higher than 20 pounds for the women, laying out a bunch of mats, like all they do is stretch. They don't lift weights. They don't need anything heavy. They just stretch because they're women, right? Terrible meals, poor lodging, garbage gift bags, like the trinkets and things that you get from going to those events where you're like, I'm going to keep these mementos forever. The things the men get versus what the women get. If I'm the NCAA, I might think, let's have all the stuff ready for the women. Let's put all the trash and let the internet take this. Because the internet took it. They took it hard. Those pictures and stories went viral. And they had that stuff fixed up. I think it was 24 hours, 36 hours. The women were set right for the most part. 24 hours, 36 hours. It was all fixed up. And I'm positive there were many people like me that said, I got to check out how these women are balling. I knew of Paige Beckers going into the tournament. I knew of Haley Van Lith going into the tournament. And then I found all of these other amazing young women that are so good at basketball that I can't wait to see in the WNBA. Ari McDonald, Haley Jones, Aaliyah Dobson, I believe is her name, Caitlin Clark, just budding star after budding star after budding star. And it's like it's the same kind of vibe with those players when you hear a Kobe might be drafted, a KG might be drafted, Kevin Durant's coming out. Like the same kind of excitement you had when those players were in college or high school and they were going to the NBA. I have the same feeling about these women that I've just told you about. Some of them already drafted, but excited to watch these games. The NCAA tournament was also highlighted by the fact that it was so competitive and such a strong tournament to watch. I hear a lot of people, and I kind of feel the same way, that the NBA game has gotten softer and softer, and that they don't allow for much of the contact and physical play that happened in the 80s, 90s. I think maybe even a little bit of the early 2000s, but most of it might have been gone by then. All of that toughness is in the women's game. That some of those NCAA games were straight scraps, like tough, hard fought games, possessions, and wins. Like at times I was uncomfortable. I was like, hey, can somebody call a foul? Because these women are going to kill each other. But it's a fraternity of sorts, a sorority of sorts, in that they have enough respect for each other that I didn't see anything dirty. They were just playing hard, and they were playing within the whistles that the refs gave them. But the NCAA tournament was strong. It was a really solid, entertaining tournament. I watched maybe 2 games of the men's tournament, probably watched 6 or 8 of the women's tournament. And it wasn't just that I'm less interested in the NCAA men's basketball tournament, but the women's tournament was good. Real good. But boy, oh boy. The NCAA really put in some inadvertent marketing on that one. Believe it or not, I have more American Ninja Warrior stories for you. And I'm surprised too. Like, I really like the show. I never realized, I think I realized maybe a season ago how important the commentators are to the show. The commentators are really strong. A bit dad jokey, but it's fine. Like, it's fine. It's like an elevated version of dad jokes. I bring up American Ninja Warrior for 2 stories. The first story is a tale of a man so dedicated to his ninja warrioring that in his focus to train and compete, he became homeless. No shade to that man. He's going after what he wants. He's training at a facility, and one day, one of his training partners, just after hanging out for several weeks, said, hey, what's your commute like to work? And the homeless man decided, I'm just going to tell him. So he takes him to this bridge he's been living under and shows him how he sets everything up and talks to him about all of those things. And the man who's his training partner basically offers him to come live with him in his house with his family and try to help him get back up on his feet. And feel like I'm a pretty good person. But I don't know what the set of circumstances would have to be for me to know, I don't know. I'm not saying I'd never do it, but I'm not sure I could do it. And then we come to find out that this man, after having this guy in his house for several months, they work together to find him a van. They buy him a van, and they fix up the van so he can live in the van and be independently mobile and have a house at the same time. He could do his competing, he could travel, all of those things. And he's got a space to live in that he feels comfortable and that he is not encroaching on someone else's space and someone's not encroaching on their space, on his space. And I thought that was a very cool story, an unbelievable story. Well, I mean, believable because it happened, but like hard to fathom. What would it take for you to know of someone? You're an acquaintance and you find out that they are without a home. And you say to that person, come live with me and my family. What would it take for you? I don't have an answer for me. I'm just sharing a story. It was a good story. I couldn't believe it happened. I hope it works out and he succeeds. He didn't win his round on the show. The man that did the saving of the homeless man or the helping of the homeless man, he did win the show. He finished the obstacle course, hit the buzzer. The homeless man fell in the water. So, karma for one? I don't know. I'm just sharing a story. The other story from American Ninja Warrior does fittingly include a woman. I believe her name is Janique Lovette. And this woman has been competing on American Ninja Warrior for a good 5, 6, 7 seasons. Always strong, real athletic. You always expect her to do more than she ends up doing. And this season, she showed up looking incredible. Like, all she's been doing the entire pandemic is training for American Ninja Warrior. That's what she's doing. She's training for American Ninja Warrior. And she's making protein bars. Damien, how do you know she's making protein bars? She told us she's making protein bars. They are for sale. Okay? So we see the two little hosts up in their little booth holding up some of her protein bars, and they're like, wait, we won't eat them until she's done, and we'll see how they taste. So she goes through this obstacle course, and homegirl is killing it. She is killing it. She's doing well. She looks stronger than she's ever looked. Just, you're filled with joy. Just filled with joy. You're just like, get it, girl. And like, she didn't crush it. There were some struggles, which she overcame. And the woman finished the obstacle course. Hooray for her. Now, as many other people must have been thinking, what in the hell is in those protein bars? And how do I get those protein bars in me? So, I tracked down Miss Janique or Janique, I can't remember. I tracked down her Instagram account. Can't find the bars. Can't find them. Then I'm looking through the little archived stories thing, and it says my bars or something like bars, my bars, protein bars. They're called Z-Fit bars. Z-Fit in Canada. So I see these bars. She makes a range of flavors. She's got all these orders that she's been making up for people. Julie, your bars were made on April the 1st. They expire by blah, blah, blah. They're orange cranberry. Cool. How do I get the bars? So I'm clicking through. I'm looking at posts. Can't find these bars. Woman, where are the bars? How do I get the bars? So I hit the story, current story, hit her story. And I'm going through kids, some other garbage. Where are the bars, woman? Okay? Where are the bars? There's so many slides I got to get through. Finally, I see a message on top of a picture of some bars. And the message says, we're working on a website. We are working on a website for these bars. Now, Miss Lady, I've never been so happy and sad for a person in my whole life. You thought, you know the reach of American Ninja Warrior, and you thought, I've been selling these bars out of my backyard or front of my house or wherever the hell you've been selling these bars. And you're like, oh, I'm doing pretty good. I'm selling 500 bars a week or 1,000 bars a week or whatever. And I'll get the American Ninja Warrior people to give me a little plug on the show. They'll hold up my bars, all of those things. I don't think what she counted on was she was going to hit a buzzer. Okay? They would give us no information on how to buy these bars. And when she was done winning, one of the hosts would bite into the bar and say, oh, this thing is bussin'. Now, I've never heard anybody say anything is bussin' before, specifically as a good thing, but when host Akbar Bajamia Miller bit into that protein bar and said, ooh, this thing is bussin', I said to myself, I need some of those bars instantly. And I want to know how many other millions of people said, I want some of those bars, and were DMing this woman so viciously that they could not figure out how to get these bars, that this woman was like, oh, I fucked up. Because if her website was already ready to go, if it was already, you didn't even need to have the bars ready to go. If your website was already ready to go, you would have made millions of dollars last night. Millions. And you still might make millions off of these bars. But so many millions of dollars because you hit a buzzer and this man said, oh, this is bussin'. Real good. F1 update. I told you people to get excited for Monaco. It was pretty. The racing was not. I should have told you to get ready for Baku, Azerbaijan. The race in Baku this weekend was bonkers. Bonkers. If you don't watch F1 yet, I don't think you'll really get it. But Baku has a straight. It's the longest straight piece of racing track on the entire calendar. and they reached speeds of 340 kilometers an hour going down this straight. And not one, but two cars going down that portion of the track had a tire either fail or pick up some debris and explode at 300 kilometers an hour. Luckily, they were both as safe as you can be when something like that happens. They walked away. They didn't need any extra medical attention at the site. They went and got some somewhere else, but they got there under their own powers. So the safety prevailed. But it caused chaos in the race. It caused chaos in the standings. And it made the race go a little bit long because they had to stop the race a couple times so they could clean some stuff up. They had a restart from the pole positions at 2 laps remaining in the race. Lewis Hamilton's in second. Red Bull's secondary driver, or second driver, Sergio Perez, he might be my favorite, I think. He's in first because Max Verstappen is one of those tires that exploded in that straight, so he was out of the race after leading it for the whole damn time. So they're at the restart, and Lewis Hamilton's brakes seem to be on fire. They are smoking. A couple other people's brakes are smoking too. His are smoking. Smoking. You remember Jim Carrey? And smoking. That's how his brakes were. Smoking. And then the race starts. Lights go out. Race starts. They start racing. Lewis gets an amazing start. Sergio tries to dive over to fumble with Lewis's line, his racing line. And they get to the corner. And everybody turns left like they're supposed to, and Lewis and his smoky ass brakes go down an escape road, and he goes from second to 15th in seconds. The next thing we hear from Lewis's radio is, "Guys, was the magic on?" Yes, Lewis, it seems the magic was on. "I forgot to turn off the magic." Apparently he's got some braking system. They call it brake magic. It heats things up when things need to be heated up. And if it's on when it shouldn't be on, you go flying down an escape route because your brakes don't work anymore. Chaos. F1 chaos. It was the most intriguing race of the season. Get with it. You got to be watching this stuff. They race again in a couple weeks. I can't remember where. You have the internet. You can find out when and where. But you got to stop missing these races if you're missing them. Once again, thank you for joining us on It's in the Details. As always, please remember to share, like, subscribe, rate, review, comment, wherever you get the show. Take care, y'all. See you in a week. Peace.